Hi friends, good morning and welcome you all to the AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp. And we have our presenter Jatin Goel today who is helping us to take the session. So let me have a quick introduction around Jatin. So he's a champion AWS authorized instructor having more than 3 years of experience working as a professional trainer and 8 years of experience working in an IT industry. He is holding all three associate AWS certifications along with practitioners, essentials, and data analytics specialist. He is an active member of AWS Reskill community as well. So today we are here for the third session in the bootcamp series for the cloud practitioner. We have received a overwhelming response in the earlier two sessions, and Jatin was able to go through all the questions and answer them as well. So let's start today's session, handing it over to the Jatin, and we can also have a follow-up session tomorrow. So if you have any questions from today's session, we can take up them tomorrow as well. So Jatin, over to you.
Thank you, Rajat, and very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone from whichever region you are joining. And I welcome you all in this bootcamp series on cloud practitioner. So, as mentioned by Rajat, today is the third session of our series on cloud practitioner bootcamp. We have lot more to learn, lot more to practice, and lot more to discuss. Okay, so without any further delay, let me give you a quick idea what we are going to have as a part of our today's session. So in the past two sessions, if I'll do a quick recap, we had started our journey with the introduction to cloud computing. Because first question which comes into our mind, why we are learning a particular framework? Is there any idea behind that? Or is there any specific reason why everyone is adopting this framework? Why everyone is adopting this methodology? Okay. So that was our starting discussion. So we had got a pretty much idea like why companies are adopting cloud computing and they are looking for skilled professional in cloud. Okay. Then our next area of discussion was what are the advantages of cloud computing over traditional infrastructure. And then we got an overview like how to choose a particular cloud provider from the individual perspective and from an organization perspective. That is a very common question which comes into our mind, that on internet we have GCP, we have Azure, we have AWS, Alibaba. Why we are learning AWS? Why should we should go to the AWS? So individuals and organization needs differs in terms of their requirement, and based on that, you can choose a particular cloud provider. So that was our discussion. Okay. As we are here to learn AWS, so we saw how to create an account in the AWS, and I had passed some links also, like to create and activate an account. And also, I had suggested, let's say, because I have seen this lot of times for the participants who are still doing the graduation, who are still freshers, and they don't have like a debit card or credit card with the correct requirement, which needs to be registered as a payment method. There is AWS Educate platform where you can register yourself and you can start learning with some good courses. So that also I had shared. Okay. We talked about AWS fundamentals with respect to different AWS services. So we had covered compute and storage. These were two major areas we had covered in our past session. Okay. So I will recommend like those who are joining for the first time, they can stay tuned, they can watch the previous recordings which are already there on YouTube. And in case of any question, please come back to us. We are here to help you out. Okay. So as tomorrow we have a follow-up session, one more session we have. So if you have any question from today's session, even from the past session, please come back to us and we will help you out. Okay. So now coming back to today's agenda, like what we are going to cover in today's session. So majorly, I'm going to talk about two things. The first is let me introduce with some documentations, with some good things which are already available in front of you, but we need a right direction. We need a right track to start from. So my first discussion will be on some digital badges which you can get and you can add in your profile. Okay. And my second discussion will be on networking, where I am going to cover VPC specifically. Okay. So let's move towards that. So see, like I believe gaining credentials and gaining hands-on are two different things. Okay. Credentials, we need to add that in our profile to show our skill set. Yes, we are trained enough, we are skilled enough in a particular framework. Okay. So I always recommend to all my colleagues, to all my participants, to all my students that please add credentials in your profile as much as possible. Okay. Now, coming back to the credentials, credentials you can attain with the help of certifications. You can have an AWS certification journey based on the track, based on your specialization, you can go ahead for a particular certification. Okay. Other thing is, like, if you are not aware about before, there are a lot of free digital badges which are available in the AWS which you can go ahead with. And today I'm going to talk about those digital badges. Okay. Also, like when I talk about real time experience, so see, real time experience always comes up with practice. Real time experience is not a 1 day task or a 2 day task. It's not even a task of a month. Real time experience will come up by practice, and I have some good important documentations links which I am going to share with all of you for your short term goal as well as long run goal. Okay. Let's start with the digital badges. So this is one of the blog where you can see learn step by step with an AWS storage learning plan and earn badges. Okay, so see, these are some of the badges which you can attain in the area of AWS storage. Okay, so whenever we have to classify storage in AWS, we majorly categorize them into object storage, file storage, and block level storage. Okay. So now these storage badges will add a credential in your profile. So if I'll take you here, I have taken two blocks. You can see the series of badges. So let's say if you're going to start with this object storage, so there's a specialized badge for the object storage. Let me just increase the font for you, and I'm going to pass this link to all of you in the chat, in the comment section. Okay. So see, you can individually attain the badges for object storage, block storage, and file storage. Once you have attained all these badges, you will be categorized into storage core specialization. Along with storage core, you can have another badges for data migration, for data protection and disaster recovery. And finally, you are going to get one more badge called storage technologist. Okay. Now, another question can come into your mind. Do we have to register somewhere to earn these badges, to learn these things? Do we have to pay some amount if we have to attain these badges? My answer to your second question, do we have to pay some amount, is no. You don't have to pay any amount. Actually, if you are not aware about before, we have a platform called AWS Skill Builder. Okay. And if you will go here, you can see here they have given you the correct indication. Start the storage learning plan or beginner start here. As soon as I click here, I will be redirected to a portal called AWS Skill Builder. So this is a platform where you are going to get a lot of self-paced free digital trainings. Okay. So usually, like if I have to learn something, I check for some good courses, I check for some videos on YouTube, or I check for some basically learning plans. So my suggestion, the first platform you should adopt, that is a skill builder, because the thing is that you are going to get a lot of good courses and free courses. So you can see this is a complete storage plan. Okay, this is a complete storage plan you can register for, and you can see these are free. You can start with the object storage, you can start with the block storage, you can start with the file storage. You can see all these things. Okay, you can start with the data migration, you can start with the data protection and disaster recovery. So you only have to basically register for those which are free of cost. You can simply see a free tag here. If I will sign in, you only need an account on Amazon. You can log in via Amazon credentials. I'm doing the same. So I will log in with my Amazon credentials, and then I will be landed up to this skill builder portal. Okay, so let me show you. And I will show you how you can register for that. I will be landed to my skill builder portal, skill builder account. And from here, you can register. So one more thing I'll show you. You can explore more self-paced courses, okay, from this particular platform. Let's wait for this to be loaded. And then we are going to discuss about some self-paced digital training. In the meantime, I can put these two links in the comment section so that you can go through this whenever you feel. I've already added these two links in the chat. You can go through these two links. Okay. So this is my platform. Now from here, you can simply go to the course catalog. You can see we have a course catalog here. And when we will go to this course catalog, again, based on the filters you're applying, you will see the list of courses here. You can see. Let me apply the filters. For example, the first filter which I will apply is based on the language. So I'm applying the filter. Okay. Also, you can have more such filters here. You can check that in terms of duration, in terms of course level, in terms of training category, in terms of type. You can see digital training or learning plan in terms of enrollment status. Let me go with learning plan, for example. You can see these are the learning plans which are available free of cost. So you can see lot of learning plans here. Okay. So it's better you can go ahead with these learning plans. If you have not registered to the skill builder, start registering to the skill builder today only. You will need an Amazon account, and then you can explore lot of free digital trainings which will help you out in order to explore more on AWS. Okay. So I say I believe that we already have enough documentations available as a part of AWS, so we don't need to go here and there. So first of all, enjoy, first of all, learn from these documentations, learn from these free courses, attain some tags, add some credentials in your profile, and after that, if you need that, you have to go to a particular track. You can choose a track. Okay. For that also, I'm going to help you out with some good pointers, but that is a part of our tomorrow session. Now, coming back to our next discussion, which I'm going to do here, that is, if you recall, in the last session, we have talked about S3, simple storage service. Okay. And we have created a bucket and uploaded an object into the bucket. But we were facing the issue when we were trying to access that object. Let's see that. So I will again go to S3. This is my console home. Those who are new to AWS Management Console, my recommendation to them is to create an account in AWS and enjoy the free tier offerings as a part of AWS account. Okay. So this is a recently visited section as a part of my console home where I can see the list of services which I have visited recently. Okay. So I can go to S3 from here, or if you don't want to go from here, you can simply search the S3 in the search bar. And then you can go to the S3. Okay, so I will show you from scratch. Don't worry. I will show you a demo from scratch. So when we talk about what are the different ways to access AWS management console of them, command line interface is another way, and third way we can say that is SDK, software development kit. Okay. So I'm going to use two interfaces here. One is a management console and another is a command line interface. Okay. So management console is a web-based interface you all can see. Okay. Means anyone who is non-technical or even who is technical, they have the flexibility to use the management console. If you love to interact, if you love to play with commands, you can use the terminal. If you are a programmer, you want to write some programs in order to interact with AWS services, SDK is for you. Okay. Let me open this Cloud Shell. I'm going to use this Cloud Shell also. Okay. So let's create a bucket and then we will upload the object using CLI. Creating a bucket, simply click export, and you will be navigated to the create bucket page. Okay. To all of you, just a quick revision. What do you think if I will ask you, is S3 a global service or regional service? What will be your response for that? Is S3 a global service or regional service? I will give you 5 minutes to think about it. I will start a timer. Let me start a timer. And your time starts now. So my question, I'll again repeat, that is, if I will ask you, is S3 a global service or regional service? How you will define that? I'll put an I in the comment section. I'm looking forward for maximum participation because you know that that's a best way to learn something. So from the timer perspective, 30 seconds passed. You still have some time to make an attempt. So please go ahead. Still waiting for a response from your end. And I'll keep on following up. $50 over. Okay, I'll repeat my question. Is S3 a global service or regional service? What do you think? How you will deal with this question? Is S3 a global or is S3 a regional service? Regional means you need to choose a particular region before you are provisioning the infrastructure, before you are provisioning the resources. And global means no choice of region you have to make. That will be available as a part of your AWS account. That will not be specific to a particular region. Example, EC2. When you create a virtual machine, you need to choose a specific region in which you are going to create an EC2 instance. What do you think about S3? Let's see the timer. 1 minute 50 seconds over. Few more minutes left with you. Give a try, everyone. Okay. Regional. Okay. Two answers I have got. Still looking for more answers. 2 minutes 10 seconds passed. And then we will have our discussion. Two minutes 30 seconds passed. Few minutes left with all of you. Give a try. There is nothing right and wrong. Remember that. There is no one to do a judgment. We all are here to share our experiences. I am learning from you. You are learning from me. So actually, we are sharing our knowledge. And we are here to discuss. So more you will participate, more discussion we will make, and more interaction will be there. Very good. 3 minutes over. 2 more minutes left with all of you. These are some good questions which can be a part of your interview, which can be a part of your regular discussion with someone. So it's better to clarify these questions and it's better to understand the strategy in which we should answer these type of questions. So that's always better to understand the strategy. Okay, 3 answers I have got. Looking forward for more replies. We have 4 minutes over and we have 1 more minute left. Last minute left. 60 seconds. And soon we'll begin our countdown. Give a try. Okay, 4 minutes 30 seconds over. 20 more seconds left. 10 more seconds. So countdown begins. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And time up. Okay. I can see 3 answers in the chat. Some of you are saying regional, some of you are saying global. Let me help you out. See, actually, there are both the things. If you will see from the console perspective, from the dashboard perspective, maybe if you're thinking from this particular section, which is showing you global, and you don't have any option to select a region. But there is a drop down from where you need to select a region. So how to answer this question? So you should answer this question in a way. You should say that the bucket namespace or the bucket name which we are providing, that is globally unique in the S3. But S3 bucket should be created in a particular region. So S3 is global with respect to a bucket namespace, this name which we are providing here. But it is regional because you are creating a bucket in a specific region where you are going to store the object. Means if I'm talking about, let's say I have uploaded a file to the S3 bucket, and if I will try to understand where my file is up added or where my file is present, so my file will be present in a data center in a particular geographical location. Okay. Obviously, I can replicate using a cross-region replication. So when someone asks you this question, you should answer in a way: the bucket namespace in the S3 is globally unique. The bucket which we are creating in the S3, that should be created in a specific region. The answer to this particular question. So let's give a unique bucket name. I told you, if you want to see the naming conventions, you can always open the rules for naming conventions in order to see what are the different conventions you have to follow while you are giving a name to your bucket, in terms of length, in terms of namespaces, in terms of letters, numbers, all these things you can see from here. Okay. So yes, if you will be a part of any industry, there would be some conventions you will have to follow. Maybe they will just give you that these are the guidelines on the basis of which you have to create a bucket namespace. Okay. But in generic, you have to provide a meaningful bucket name. Don't append any personal information as a part of your bucket name. Okay. So let me give a bucket name here. I'm saying demo S3 bucket, and I'm appending today's date, which is 11/03 2023. Okay. I'm choosing a region as Asia Pacific Mumbai, and all other settings I'm keeping default. So by default, all the public access settings are blocked. Okay. Keep that thing in your mind. And finally, click on create bucket. So this bucket will be created soon. If you will provide a name that is already existing, you will get an error. Now, keep one thing in your mind. When I'm saying globally unique, globally means only not related to your account. Globally means around the globe. Okay, so that namespace should be globally unique, and that's the reason I'm asking you not to add any personal information. Okay, great. Okay. Swapna is saying it's global. We can access all the over regions. Okay, I'll clarify that. See, when you're talking about it's global, we can access all over the region. That is, it is a service which is available on internet for storage. You can access it from anywhere. Even you can access, let's say I have deployed or hosted a web application on AWS, you can access it from anywhere. But that does not make a service global. A global case is with respect to bucket case. As you had seen, when I was creating a bucket, I had it in a Mumbai region. Now, if a Mumbai region would be down, for example, let's take a worst case scenario. If your entire Mumbai region would be down and you have not taken any backup of your data will be lost. Your data will be lost. So from here, you can say that you are creating the bucket, you're storing the data in a specific region. You need to enable cross region replication if you want to replicate it over the different geographical location. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Sapna, make sense? What do you say? Do you agree with that? Okay. Let me open the bucket I have created. Now, what I am going to do, I'm going to upload the object into this bucket using the Cloud Shell from the CLI. Okay. Let me do that. I will go here. This is Cloud Shell is one of the interface which provides you the command line terminal. Okay. So the command to copy the data into the S3 bucket is AWS S3 CP with the required parameters. But before that, let's create one file. Let's create a sample file. Let's say this is my test file, for example. Okay. And I am appending it to test with today's state dot txt, for example. Okay. You can execute a cat command in order to display the content. So these are some Linux commands. I can see this is a content inside this file. Now I have to execute the copy command in order to copy this test file into my S3 bucket. Okay. And I have to provide my bucket name. So this is my bucket name. Let me provide that. I told you these commands will come up by practice. I'm not asking you to memorize that in one go. Okay. There are ways. The first way to remember it slowly, that is, every AWS command will be started from AWS. So type AWS as a keyword. Okay. After that, type the name of the service on which you want to execute the command. Let's say if I have to execute a command on EC2, I'll type EC2. If I have to execute a command on IAM, I will type IAM. Then provide the operation name which you want to execute, and finally provide the arguments. Okay. If I'll go back to my console, I can see we have the file present here, .txt file present here. Okay. If I'll try to access that over the internet by copying the URL, currently, let's see the response. What will be the response? I am getting access denied. Can anyone tell me why? Why access denied? I'll take that question. There's a question how to enable cross-region replication. I'll talk about that. Okay. First of all, can anyone tell me why access denied? Anyone? Why access denied? Let's check if I have gotten reply. ACL are disabled. Okay. What is ACL? Access control list. Okay, good. See, the first thing is by default everything is private. If I'll go to permissions, under permissions I can see this setting is blocked. Okay, this setting is blocked. So unblock it. But unblocking this setting is not going to make my bucket public, make my objects public. Okay. For that, you will have to apply either bucket policy. You can manage the access using ACL access control list, or you can manage using access point. So what I am going to use, I am going to use bucket policies for this particular demo, because with the help of bucket policies, we can provide fine-grained control access. ACL, if I have to compare that with bucket policy, ACL we need to manage at the bucket as well as object level. And again, ACL is used to grant basic read-write permissions. Okay. If you want more fine-grained control, go ahead with the bucket policy. We could add it. And bucket policies are JSON based policies. Okay. So these policies provide access to the object stored in the bucket. Now, I am not asking you to learn JSON. There are ways to generate the policy, and there is a policy generator. Let's do that. Let's open a policy generator very quickly. And I am going to create policy with a public access. So first thing you all have to do, you all have to select a type of policy you want to create. I want to create S3 bucket policy. I've chosen S3 bucket policy here. In the principal means access to whom. So I want to apply access to everyone. So I'm using star. Okay. So principal means one who can make a call to perform an action in AWS. Okay. So for now, I want to provide access to everyone. So I'm saying star. In the actions, I am saying get object. What action you want to provide? So I want to apply an action called get object. Let me choose that. This is the one I have chosen. And then we have ARN, Amazon Resource Name. This ARN gives unique identity to AWS resources, from where you are going to get an ARN. You will get a bucket ARN from here. But this particular action is at object level, means I need to provide the ARN for the object. So if you have to provide an ARN for the object, you will have to enter inside bucket. Okay, like if I have to provide an ARN for the If I'm asking you that on your machine, so you go to a folder. Inside that folder, you tell me that this is a file here. Okay. So similarly, my objects are stored inside a bucket. So I will have to go inside a bucket. Okay. Now, if you want to provide access to all the object, you can say slash star. Otherwise, you can specifically provide the name of an object to which you want to grant the access for. Okay. Now, by default, if I will create this statement, if I will generate this policy, due to this star, the access will be granted to everyone. It will make my bucket, entire bucket, and the object inside that as a public. If you want to restrict it, let's say I want to restrict this access for my IP address. So I can add a condition. Go to add conditions. From here, you can use IP address, you can say source IP address, and you can provide your IP address from here. That you can do. I'm not doing it right now, okay, but I'm just showing you that why I was using a word fine grain control. Okay, I'm adding a statement, generating a policy, and taking it here. Okay, and finally, I am saving the changes. As soon as I will do that, I can see that access will be public. Okay. And access public means you can access it over the internet. Okay. But an advice to all of you, you don't need to make the S3 bucket and the object public all the time. Only make it public if it is really required. Only provide the unrestricted access if it is really required. For example, you are hosting a website, okay, and you are using S3 for hosting a static website. You have to make it public, the access to everyone, so you can use this. We have options in order to secure the data present into our S3 bucket. So we can integrate that with the CloudFront content delivery network service. Okay. But for now, this is what I wanted to show you, that how you can control and manage the access. Now, even if you will try to access this URL, you will be able to see this particular screen. Okay. Let me paste this URL in the chat. Can you try that? And can you share the result with me? Are you getting the same result? This is my test file. Are you getting the same result? Yes or no? Looking forward for replies. Okay. So yes, you will get the same result because I have not applied any restriction. Now, when you talk about S3, in S3 we have some management features like lifecycle rules. And if you're talking about replication, see, from here you can manage the replication rules. You can see, use replication rule to define option you want S3 to apply during replication, such as encryption, replica ownership, transitioning replica to the another storage class. So from here you can create the replication rule. Okay, means you can replicate the object present into S3 as a part of another region too. Okay, got the answer of your question? When we were talking about how to enable cross-region replication, here you can set the create replication rule from the management tab under S3. Okay, makes sense? Great. Now let's start with our next discussion, which we have planned for today, and that is networking. We are going to talk about networking. Okay. Again, coming back to all of you, if I have to define networking in a single word, how you will define that? Anyone? If I have to define networking in a single word, how you will define that? Okay. Again, let's start a 30 seconds timer this time. And your time starts now. I have started a 30-second timer. 20 seconds passed, 10 more seconds left. 3 more seconds, 2 more, 1, and time up. So see, if I have to define networking, I will use these keywords. Communication, integration, connection. Networking is giving us an opportunity to integrate, to communicate, to interact, to connect. Okay. So whenever we are designing our application, whenever we are designing an architecture, we create first of all the standalone component. Let's say I have to create a database. Okay. I have to create a storage layer. I have to create a compute layer. I have done that. Okay. But in order to release that as a single product, I need to establish the integration between these products. I needed to integrate all these individual components to create a whole system. So there we need networking. And when networking comes into picture, networking means we need isolation. How get it? Let's say I'm talking about a company. Let's take an example, a dummy company, www.example. I'm saying network of employees working in example.com. Can anyone tell me the meaning of this statement? Network of employees working in example.com. If I'm using this statement, network of employees working in example.com. Any idea how you will define this statement? Again, network of employees working in example.com. Very good. Okay, see, when we say network of employees working in example.com means I'm talking from the company perspective. There would be a dedicated network which can be accessed by the employees of that company. For example, like companies of that employee are using Microsoft Teams, are using Skype, are using Slack in order to communicate with each other. So they will be able to do that as a part of their company network. Any outsider, any employee who is not a part of that company will not be able to access that network. And that is the reason when I am using our networking, I'm saying isolation. Okay. So who provides you this isolation in AWS? Let's understand that. So whenever a word networking will come into picture in AWS, we should think about a service called VPC, which stands for Virtual Private Cloud. That's a full form. Okay. Virtual Private Cloud. Okay. So this VPC is providing you logical isolation in AWS. You can create a network which is logically isolated. It's a regional service. It is a regional service, means you create a VPC in a specific region. Okay. Now you will be good to know that like when you create an account in AWS creates a default VPC in every region in your account. The idea behind that is to make your experimentation flexible. Let's say I'm not aware about VPC at all. I want to start from a basic service called EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. At that point of time, if I have to launch a machine, I have to launch a server, I'm just providing some mandatory settings, let's say AMI, instance type. Rest all things I'm keeping default. For example, I am keeping a networking setting default. Okay. If I will not have a default network created as a part of my account, I'll not be able to launch my server. So AWS creates a default VPC as a part of every region in your account for flexibility purpose. Okay. Obviously, we can create custom VPC, and that's what we are going to do today. Okay. So VPC is a regional service. Remember that you need to choose a particular region before you are creating a VPC or provisioning a VPC. Now, if I will draw my initial architecture will be like this. Let's take an example of a VPC I am provisioning in Mumbai region. This is the Mumbai, okay, and in this AP AP South 1, I am provisioning a VPC. I'm creating a VPC. Okay. Now, if we recall our discussion on the hierarchy of AWS global infrastructure, we land to this point. This is a hierarchy of AWS global infrastructure region. Inside region, we inside availability zones, we have data centers. And if you recall our discussion, we have this hierarchy for and security purpose. And inside data centers, we have servers. Okay. It means inside this Mumbai regions, there would be availability zones which are designed for fault isolation. So in Mumbai, we have an availability zone like AP South 1A, AP South 1B, AP South 1C. Let's draw that. Okay. So I am expanding my VPC architecture by creating availability zone. For example, now I will put two questions in front of you. Okay. Let's say these are my AGs, availability zones. If you want, you specifically give the name. AP South 1A, AP South 1B, and AP South 1C are the names. Okay. Now, two questions I have from all of you. That is, let me write that for you. And the questions are, can a VPC spans across multiple regions? Question number one. Can a VPC span across multiple regions? You have to answer me in terms of true and false. That is the question. I'll again repeat. Can a VPC span across multiple regions? And I will give you 1 minute for this particular question. Your time starts now. Can a VPC span across multiple regions? You can read the question. You can come back with the answer. The answer you have to give that will be in terms of true or false, yes or no. Just now I have talked about this. Okay. Let me check the clock. 40 seconds are about to over. Then 20 more seconds are left. We have 10 more seconds. We have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time up. Okay. Let me check the answers in the comment section first before I'm replying to this particular question. Okay. I'm getting no within regions, but we can use VPC peering for cross region communication. Very good. Okay. The answer to this question is no. I told you, or you are aware about, like VPC is a regional service. We are creating a VPC in a specific region. When we are creating a VPC in a specific region, how can a VPC span across multiple regions? So answer would be no. Okay. If I will put another question, can a multiple availability zones? If that will be a question, the question yes. Why? In a region, we can have one or more availability zones. So VPC can span across multiple AG. Very good. Okay. Now let's come back to our next point of discussion. That is VPC you have drawn. This is a basic architecture. What's next? We have created an isolated network. We have provided a logical isolation. After that, I will need IP, a protocol required for communication. How you communicate address means I have to define an address range. or address space for my VPC. So how we define it using a notation called cider notation. The cider notation is the okay, and we are going to talk about as a part of our session IPv4 internet version protocol 4. So internet protocol version 4, that is IPv4. Now what IPv4 is? IPv4 is a 32-bit numerical IP address. If I will give you a quick IP address, so I will give you a little idea on this one. Let's say this is a representation .0.0. So this is one of my IPv4 address, numerical representation. Okay, so here you can see every place has 8 bits, and then you will set up you 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Okay, 8 bits means how many IP addresses can be there. So if I will just take it, raise it to 2 to the power 8, which will give you 256. Okay, means if I'm taking this one, each place numbers ranging from 0 to 255, 0 to 255. Okay. So first thing you have to choose the cider block. You have to give the address space to your VPC because you are creating the boundaries. Inside that boundaries, you are going to create the resources. So from where those resources are going to take the IP addresses, they will take the IP addresses from the cider. Okay. Let me show one notation. Let's say this is a cider block for IPv4. I'm taking this one 10.0.0.74. Okay. Now, one thing we will do here, we will calculate the count of IP addresses. If I'll put a question here, IP addresses. How to do that? Formula, yes. In order to calculate the count, raise 2 to the power, my base is 32 because 32-bit IP address, IPv4 is. Take this 24. This is known as mask. Okay. And subtract it from the 32. So you will get 2 to the power 8, which will give you 256 IP addresses. Just for representation. Okay. Now, how to decide the cider block for a VPC? So basically, like when I will take you to the console and I will walk you through one of the demo which I have planned for all of you, I'll show you AWS provide us a VPC wizard. Okay. So that VPC wizard will take the cider block for you. If you want to customize that, you can do it by yourself. But is there any documentation which can help you out with this? Yes, there is a documentation. And what's that? Let me guide you. So if I will take you here, official documentation, I cider VPC AWS. Okay. And when I will search for this, if I will open this documentation, VPC AWS documentation. I will get how to choose a cider, how to choose an on one thing. Whenever you have to talk about a particular service, if someone asks me what's a way to get deep dive into an AWS service, the answer is user guide. Open the user guide of that service and you can see the ideas about that. Okay. So from here, you can get an idea about like working with VPC, VPC basics, and all those things. And if we go to VPC cider blocks, manage IPv4 cider block for a VPC. You can see this. From here, you can get an idea how to manage VPC cider blocks. These are the info about it. Okay. You can see. So the following table provides an overview of the permitted and restricted VPC cider block association. The reason for restriction is that some services make use of cross VPC and cross account features that require non-conflicting cider blocks on AWS service side. Okay, so you can read this one. I'll provide you this block. It's there in the comment section. Okay, you can get an idea from here. Okay, that is the first thing. Now let's extend our infrastructure. Let's extend this diagram. So for extending this diagram, my next discussion will be on partition, logical isolation you got. What's next? Next is, do I need to have some logical partitions inside a VPC? Why it is required? I can say I am dividing the resources into two. Public resources and let's see that. So see, public resources and private resources. Okay, I'm drawing a two-tier architecture in front of you. Okay, two-tier means I have a web tier, and I have a database tier. This is my DB tier. On web tier, I have launched an application, or I have deployed an application. That is a banking application, for example. So web tier is having a banking application. Now you all know. So banking application involves various functionalities, various features which requires interaction with a database. One feature which I'm talking about, let's say transactions. So when we do a transactions, the records get updated into the database. If I will do any transaction, the records will be updated in my DB. Is performing a transaction. Will you allow user to interact directly with the database? Will you allow that? When a user is performing a transaction, will you allow user to interact, to communicate directly with a database? What do you think? What do you think on that? If yes, why you will allow? And if no, why you will not allow? Give a try. I'll again repeat my question. My question is, for this two-tier architecture, a user is accessing your internet banking application deployed on web tier. Will you allow this user to interact directly with the database? Will you do that? Will you do that? Okay. Let me one more time quickly check. The answers no. Okay. Two I have got. What about rest of you? All of you think yes? Those who are not replying? Or you think no? Three no. What about rest of you? Again? Tell me your response. Okay. Great. The answer is no. Why no? Security constraint. Okay. So how the flow will be there? I can say this is incorrect flow. No. And the region this user will application deployed on web tier. Web tier will communicate to a DB tier. DB tier will send the response back to the web tier, and web tier will return the response back to a user. Okay. Why I have drawn this picture in front of you? Because I want to tell you from here, I want to make a conclusion. The conclusion is, according to me, some resources are public and some resources are private. Okay. Some resources are public. Some resources are private. Means some resources need and some resources needs the indirect interaction over the internet. That brings logical partitions inside a VPC, because I can't keep all the resources in a single partition. I have to create a partition with respect to resources. So I have subnets. I define subnets in VPC. Those subnets is public subnet and private subnet. Okay. Let me extend my VPC architecture. So this is my VPC architecture. Let's extend it. So I'm creating two subnets for this particular demo. One is public, another is private. Let me do that. Okay, you can have subnets in different availability zones too. Public subnet, private subnet. And if I have to define these subnets, I can say subnets are logical partitions in a VPC. Okay, these are logical partitions in a VPC. Or I can say subset of VPC. Okay, so they will take the IP addresses from my VPC. Okay, let me just provide the CIDR block for this VPC. Let's say I'm taking this CIDR block 10.0.0.0/24. Okay, so now these subnets are taking the address space from this VPC. That's why they're called as subnets. Okay, public subnet means a logical partition in a VPC which will contain the public resources which needs direct interaction over the internet. And private subnet means which are containing the resources which needs indirect interaction over the internet, known as private resources. Okay, so one subnet can be a part of one availability zone, and an availability zone can have multiple subnets inside it. So if I will again repeat my question or recreate it in a fashion, can a subnet spans across multiple availability zone? Can a subnet spans across multiple availability zone? What will your answer for that? What will be the answer for that? Can a subnet spans across multiple AGs? Okay. Is it yes or is it no? If I will repeat my question in a way, can a subnet spans across multiple AGs? I will again repeat. Subnets are logical partitions in a VPC. Okay. They take the address space from a VPC, they're subset of VPC. There are two types of subnet, public subnet and private subnet. Public subnet is having the resources which are public, means which needs direct interaction over the internet. And private subnet holds the resources which needs indirect interaction over the internet. Okay. So now my question is, can a subnet spans across multiple availability zone? That is my question. What do you say? Okay. You are saying yes. Okay. I don't agree. Again, I will repeat my question. Can a subnet is a part of single availability zone? One subnet is a part of single availability zone. See, public part of this AP South 1A, how it can span across AP South 1B or AP South 1C. Like VPC is a regional service, you create a subnet in an availability zone. So focus on these keywords. An availability zone can have one or more subnet, but a subnet will be a part of one availability zone at a time. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? The answer would be no. The answer would be no. For this question, I'll repeat my question again. Can a subnet spans across multiple availability zone? That is my question. So the answer to this question is no. Do you agree, everyone? Yes or no? Can you do me a reply? The answer to this question is no. Okay. You can post your comments in the chat. Let me take you to VPC. Let me show you something first of all. So you know, if you have to search for a particular service, you can simply type service in the search bar. And I have done the same. So I will be navigated to the VPC dashboard. And I am going to show you that is a default VPC. AWS launch a default VPC in every region in your account. So currently I'm in a Mumbai region, so I will see a default VPC in a Mumbai region. So this is known as a VPC dashboard. Okay. Thanks a lot for the reply. So I'll go to VPCs, and from here I can get a list of VPCs. From this dashboard, if you're looking for VPC documentations and all, you can see this. Okay. So how you can see there is a default VPC? You can see it from this column. This one is my default VPC. It is yes here. Okay. For the simplicity, I have given a tag. You can give a tag. Let me delete other VPCs. We'll create a VPC from scratch. Okay. Let me delete. Select that. Go to actions. And let's say delete VPC. We will create a VPC from scratch. Okay. Let me delete this one too. It's giving me an error. It is saying that the VPC is paired as an acceptor with at least one another VPC. Okay, so I'll have to just remove the connections first. Okay, I'll do that later. If you want me to do here, I can show you. Just read the error and try to fix it. So it's talking about peering connection. So just check it and see if you need any peering connection. If you need that peering connection, keep it. Otherwise, delete that peering connection. You should always clean your environment if you are not going to use it. Okay, don't do this in real time in your production till the time no one is asking you to do, till the time the resources are not getting decommissioned. Okay, so this thing you should do as a best practice in your own account, in your personal account. Remember that. So now try to delete it, and this time if I will go to delete VPC, I should not get any error. Let's delete that. My VPC got deleted. Okay. So I can only see a default VPC currently in my account. Now, when you go to create VPC, let's create a new VPC. Okay. So see, this is a very good option AWS has provided. So VPC is an isolated portion of the AWS cloud. You can always read the info, and that's a better way to read. You can read it from here. A VPC is an isolated portion of the cloud populated by AWS objects such as EC2 instances. You must specify an IPv4 address range when you create a VPC. Specify the IPv4 address range as a classless inter-domain routing CIDR block. Okay. You cannot specify a IP CIDR block larger than /16. So this is a limitation. Okay. Now, here there are two options. Either you can create a VPC only, either you can go for VPC and more. If you choose this option VPC and more, by default it will show you what all things you can create, and there will be a hierarchy. So for this thing, I have a VPC. Inside this VPC there are 4 subnets, 2 public, 2 private, and we have 3 route tables. One is for main, one is for public, one is for private. Okay, I will talk about this. We will use this option later. Currently I will say VPC only. Let me choose this one. Okay, and let's give a name. Let's say my first custom VPC. It's better if you want to read the info, you can read the info about every particular section. Okay, I'm giving a CIDR block. So let me give a CIDR block for my VPC. I have already passed you a reference how to choose a CIDR block for your VPC. Okay, or if you are new, if you want to practice, you can use VPC and more option. Okay, I will show you that option too. Right now I want to show you some components which are integrated with each other one by one. Okay, so let me show you this VPC part. I'm not creating my VPC in a dual mode. Dual mode means I'm not attaching IPv4 and IPv6. I'm only creating a VPC with the IPv4 CIDR block. Okay. Let me do that. And finally, I am creating a VPC. Let's do it. Now I have another question for all of you. That question is, let's say I am into a discussion with all of you for a VPC. And my question is, can you tell me what comes by default when you create a new VPC? What comes by default when you create a new VPC? Can you tell me, anyone? Let me repeat my question. My question is, what comes by default when you create a VPC? Over to you all. Can anyone tell me what comes by default? I'll guide you. See, when you create a VPC, there will be a route table which comes by default. That's the reason I had chosen this option VPC only, because I wanted to show you, if you encounter this question somewhere, you can answer that in a very clear manner that by default a route table will come with a VPC. Now, what is route table? Route table is something which defines the route, like how traffic is flowing. Okay. What is a target? What is a destination? So this route table, which comes with a VPC, that is called a main route table, or that is also called a default route table. So let me just open this route table. If I will open this route table, we will see the routes. I'll go to routes. Here I can see we have two things: destination and target. Okay. So there will be a default entry in the route table associated with the VPC. And that default entry says that by default, all the resources in VPC can communicate with each other. Okay. Now, how I remember these rules, I will show you. I will tell you. For now, just remember this much. What is a CIDR? The CIDR is 10.0.0.0/24. So what's my destination when I'm saying locally? So my destination is the entire VPC. So destination, I have taken the CIDR block. Target is what I'm targeting. I'm targeting local communication. So my target is local here. So local means locally, and destination means where I want to reach. I want to communicate inside a VPC. Okay. So this will always be an entry which will be there. Okay. This will always be an entry which will be there as a part of a route table. So one VPC can have multiple route table. Each subnet will have a route table associated with it. Right now, I have not created any subnet. Okay. I have got a very good question, a very good reply on my question. That is, when I ask this, what comes by default? Okay. So one of you told me that NACL comes. I'll guide you. See, when you say NACL, what NACL is? NACL is a firewall, network access control list. The one which you're talking about, this main network ACL, it is allowing everything by default. So this is optional setting at a subnet level. Okay. If you will see this, it is a default one. Default means you can see everything allowed. Okay. In the outbound also, everything allowed. This is a default one. This is the optional one. Okay. So basically it is allowing the all traffic inside a subnet, all inbound, all outbound. Okay. So now I have created a VPC. I have a route table. Let's create two subnets in a VPC. So what I usually do, I go to my VPCs and I will see this is a VPC ID. Let me create subnets. So right now I'm going to create one subnet. Okay. So I will go to create subnet. I will give it a name after selecting a VPC as a part of which I want to create this subnet. Let me choose this. Okay. I'm giving a subnet name. Let's say my first custom VPC subnet 01. Any meaningful name you can give. You can choose an availability zone in which you want to provision your subnet. If you will say no preference, it will automatically take an availability zone. In a Mumbai, we have 1A, 1B, 1C. So I'm choosing no preference. Okay, if you want, you can choose that. Now provide a CIDR block to your subnet. So subnet is a subset of a VPC. It's a logical partition in a VPC. Let's provide the subnet IP CIDR block. So let's say I'm saying 10.0.0.0/. 25. Okay, let me choose this one. I will scroll down and I will say create subnet. Let's wait for the subnet to be created. I can see the subnet got created. Let me create one more. Let me give a name. Let's say my first custom VPC subnet 02. Again, for availability zone, I'm not giving any preference. For IPv4 CIDR block, I am giving a CIDR block, let's say this one. Okay. And I'm trying to create a subnet. It is saying CIDR address is not within the CIDR address from the VPC. So see, first thing you have to ensure that whenever you are providing the CIDR address for the subnet, that should be a part of your VPC CIDR address. One thing. Okay. If that is not a part, you will get an error. Another thing, CIDR block of your two subnets should not overlap with each other. Let's give a try. Let's try this one. Let's say 10.0.0.1/25, for example. Okay. You can see CIDR address overlap with the existing subnet CIDR. So if you are providing the CIDR block, you have to keep two things in your mind. One is the CIDR block should be a part of your VPC. The subnet CIDR block which you are choosing, that should be a subset of your VPC. Another one is the CIDR block of two VPC should not overlap with each other. Okay, got this thing? Got this thing clear? Why there are already three subnets by default? See, I will do that, Sandeep. So there are three subnets by default that is a part of your default VPC. I told you by default AWS create a VPC in your account. Okay. So that default VPC will come up with those subnets. So those are the subnets of a default VPC. Make sense? And let me again give you this VPC CIDR. Sandeep, this is a reference documentation. I'm again passing it. So, great. Let's come back. Let's provide a CIDR. Let's say /28. Okay. So you have to choose the one which should not overlap. Okay. So when you are choosing the one which is overlapping, you will get the error. So see, this is how you should create a VPC. You should create a subnet and you should choose the CIDR block respectively. Now, how you can do that? This is an IPv4 CIDR calculator. You can use any calculator. Let me use, for example, this one. Let's say I'm providing a CIDR. For example, this one I'm providing. This one was the CIDR of my VPC. I'm choosing this and I can calculate. I can see this. This is my input. This is my CIDR IP range from 10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.255. Okay. Let me choose the one for my public one which I had given. So it will be 10.0.0.0/10.0.0.127. Okay. So you can quickly check what is the CIDR for your first subnet you have given. Let me do that. If I'll go here, that was the one I had given. Okay. 10.0.0.0/25. So let me create another subnet now. So you can take the help of a calculator if you want. that will come by practice. Okay, so let me just give a name, my first custom VPC subnet 02. Okay, now let me provide a side. Let's say I'm saying 10.0.0.128. Okay, and 25. Let me choose this one. This time I'm not getting error. How I decided, I saw when I had given this CIDR block the IP address reserved from 0 to 127. Now let's say I have to provide 128 more IP addresses. So I started from 128 to 255. Okay. Let's create a subnet. And another subnet will be created. Okay. Now, if you have to filter a subnet for your VPC, what you can do, you can simply take a VPC ID and you can filter the subnets. Let me take a VPC ID. If I'll go back to subnets, I can filter the subnet for this specific VPC ID. Let me do that. So you can see for these two subnets, I have this VPC ID with which these subnets are associated. Okay. So I have created 0102 subnet for these VPCs. Okay. And now you can also check every subnet will have a route table associated with it. Okay. So you can see this subnet has a route table associated and this subnet will also have a route table associated. And this is a main route table. Means when you create a VPC, when you launch the subnets in a VPC, if you are not creating any route table explicitly for those subnets, there will be a default route table or main route table attached to those subnets. Okay. Are we good till here, everyone? Are we good till here? Okay, let me check. If a custom VPC is not given, then our account will use default VPC. Very correct, Vijay. If you are not creating a custom VPC, then wherever you have to launch your servers, your resources in a networking, you will only see the default VPC. Okay. Sandeep, you can put your queries in the chat. Okay. And I will just do a reply for all the queries, Sandeep. I will revert back to all the comments. So for any query, for any reference, please let me know, Sandeep. I'll help you out with that. So please post your comment in the chat. Okay, great. Now, why I am creating this component individually? Because now I will take you to the next question. Learning things step by step gives you more clarity. So now my next question to all of you, how can I identify that which one is a public, which one is private, or all are public, all are private? How can I identify that? Is there any way to identify it? Let me put my next question. My next question to all of you, how can you identify which one is public, which one is private? Are all the subnets public here? Are all the subnets private here? That is a question. Private. Are all the subnets I have created are public? This question. Currently, I can't say that. Okay. People usually think public and private we can give in a name. Let's say if I'm saying my first custom VPC public subnet and my first custom VPC private subnet. So from the tag we can identify. No, that's not a correct understanding. Let's see that. So for understanding it, for introducing the next concept, I'm going to, very good, I'm going to basically launch an EC2 instance. I've already got an answer in the chat, but I will show you something. Let me launch an EC2 instance. So I'll go to EC2 dashboard. And from here, I'm provisioning one EC2 machine. Let's wait for this dashboard to come up and running. And then I will say launch instance. This is my EC2 dashboard. I'll go to instances running. I start provisioning one EC2 instance. You all know how to do this. Okay. You need to provide instance type, you need to provide AMI, you can provide key pair, and you can provide other settings too. Okay. But for this EC2 instance, I am going to launch it as a part of my custom VPC. Currently, I don't have any EC2 instance running. Let's create our instance. So click on launch instance from here. And then I'm going to give a name, say my first custom EC2 instance. Okay. Any name you can give. Again, you have to give a meaningful name. You know what the purpose of in AWS is to give you a strategy you can use in order to filter your resources or manage your resources. Okay. So I'm saying my first custom EC2 instance. Okay. So that is the name I'm giving here. In the AMI, we know what AMI is. It's an image, it's a template which contains configurations required to launch your EC2 instance. I'll choose a one which is eligible under free tier. So I'm choosing Amazon Linux. If I scroll down further, in the instance type, again, I'm choosing T2.micro. For key pair, I'm not creating a key pair for this particular demo because I am going to use EC2 Instance Connect. Now comes a network setting. Okay. In a network setting, you can see, Vijay, like if I'm not choosing anything by default, it will take a default VPC. Let me choose a custom one. Okay. In a subnet, I have two subnets. Any of the subnet you can choose. Let me choose this one. I am assigning a public IP, so I will have to enable. So by default, for a custom VPC, this auto assign public IP will be disabled. This setting will be disabled. If you want to make your server public, if you want to make it accessible over the internet, you have to provide public IP address. Okay, I'm doing that. In the firewall, I'm going to create a security group. So with respect to VPC, there can be two firewalls, security group and NACL, network access control list. Security group we apply at an instance level. Network access control list we apply at a subnet level. Okay. So security group basically decide what is allowed to your servers. So for this particular demo, I'm allowing SSH from anywhere because that is a requirement of even EC2 Instance Connect. If you will use EC2 Instance Connect, you have to allow SSH from anywhere. And finally, let me launch the instance. So when I will click on launch instance, you can see the progress here. And soon you will be able to see your EC2 instance will be launched. I can go to instances to track the progress. And from here, if I will refresh this, I can check the status. So currently it's in a pending state. Soon the status will be up and running. You can refresh this and you can see. Okay. Now to connect it, let me go to connect and let me use this EC2 instance connect option. Okay. Let's see if we will be able to successfully connect to our EC2 instance or not using this option. Very good. I have got replies in the chat about the public and private. Let's see that. Let's see that practically. It is initializing a session, waiting for the response. Let's check for the response. I am getting failed to connect to your instance. Why? The reason is, see, although you have enabled public IP address, but you don't have any internet gateway attached to your VPC. So internet gateway is a component in a VPC which is highly available by default, and this internet gateway allow you to initiate a traffic over the internet. Okay, so when you are using this EC2 instance connect option, your EC2 should be a part of a public subnet. Okay, and also you should have an internet gateway attached. So now when someone asks you this question, how you will identify that a subnet is a public or private? That will be identified by the entries in the route table. you need to check the route table. Okay, if a route table is containing the entry for the internet gateway, the route table associated with the subnet, that subnet is known as a public one. If route table is not containing an entry of internet gateway, then the subnet with which the route table is associated, that is called a private subnet. Let's see that. So I'm going to create an internet gateway. For that, I'll go to internet gateways here, and you can read the info about internet gateway. So this is an internet gateway for my default VPC. Okay, I'm going to create the one for the custom VPC I created. You can see it's a horizontally scaled, redundant, and highly available VPC component that enable communication between your VPC and the internet. Okay, let's create the one. Let's say my first custom VPC internet gateway. The short form used is IGW. Okay, create the gateway. Now, one VPC can have one internet gateway attached to it. Currently, the status detached, say attached to a VPC. So we'll only see this custom VPC because the default VPC has already an internet gateway attached, and one VPC can have one internet gateway attached. Let's select this. And they have also given you the option for the command line interface. This is a CLI command. Means if you want to attach the internet gateway via command line interface, you can execute this command also. Okay. Say attach internet gateway. Internet gateway got attached, but this is not going to fix our problem. We also need to update the route table entry. So let's create a route table first. It's always better to create a separate route table for public subnet and private subnet. I'm creating one route table. I'm giving it as a name, my first custom VPC route table 01. Okay. Select a VPC. I'm creating a route table for my custom VPC. And here I'm saying create route table. So when you associate it with a VPC, it takes a default route. That is, by default, all the component in a VPC can communicate. Click on edit routes, and I'm going to add a route for internet gateway. So how I define these entries? Destination, where I want to reach. I want to reach out to internet, and that is represented by 0.0.0.0/0. This is a representation for internet. And what's my target? What I'm targeting to reach to internet? I'm targeting internet gateway, and this is a gateway ID. Save the changes. Okay, so now this is my first custom VPC route table 01 with an entry to internet gateway. Now, when I will attach that to a subnet, that subnet will become my public subnet. Let me attach this to this particular subnet. Okay, I'll go to route table. I'll say edit route table association. So I'm choosing a route table. This is the one I'm choosing, and I'm saving this. Okay, means this subnet has now become public subnet based on the route table entry. So route table for the public subnet should always have an entry to internet gateway. And when I will go back, if I will refresh the screen, I'll be able to fix this time. Okay. So that is something I will be able to see. Let's wait, and soon we will see our instance is up and running with respect to connection to EC2 instance. So reason was I did not had any internet gateway attached to a subnet in which I have launched my EC2 instance. Okay. So now the next thing I want to show you, that was just to connect the dots. The another thing, if you are starting, okay, I will suggest you to go via this way, like to practice via this way, create a VPC, create subnet, create route table, create internet gateway separately. Now another option is simply go to your VPC, And let's create a VPC and more component. Okay. If you will say create VPC, you can see, let me choose VPC and mode. This is the components which will be launched as a part of your VPC. Okay. Auto generate project. Let me just say my second custom VPC. And you can see the name it will append. This is a name for my second custom VPC. Okay. This is a IPv4 CIDR block, which they have taken by default. If you want to provide your CIDR block, you can do that. That's up to you. Okay. You can see these options. They have provided with this option. Okay. Let me choose a default one, which they have taken, that is 10.0.0.0/16. So you can use either the one which you want to provide, or either the one which AWS has chosen for you. If you scroll down further, it's creating two availability zone. Okay, so choose a number of ages in which to provision subnet. So it's choosing two ages to provision subnet, and by default it incorporates high availability. Okay, so if you want to choose one, you can choose one, and your diagram will be changed accordingly. You can see that. Okay, if you want to choose two, you can choose two. Okay, let's say I'm creating one public, one private, so you can have these numbers. You can customize the CIDR blocks for your public and private subnets. These are the CIDR block for the public and private. If you want to customize that, you can. Then there is a NAT gateway, but this NAT gateway is basically, so see, NAT gateway is another component of a VPC. So I told you some resources need direct interaction over the internet, and some resources need indirect interaction over the internet. So resources which require direct interaction, those are public resources, will be a part of public subnet. Those resources which require indirect interaction will be a part of private subnet, and those are known as private resources. Okay. Now think about a database which is there as a part of a private subnet. Database need patches. Database need upgrade. How to download those patches? So in order to download those patches, the database need access to internet indirectly, means only allow outbound traffic, no inbound. So how can we enable that indirect connection to the internet from private resources? NAT is a device for that. And NAT gateway, you can read the info. A NAT gateway is a network address translation service which enable resources in the private subnet to reach the internet. Okay. So if you want to create, you can create one in one AG or one per AG, that you can choose. So NAT gateway will be chargeable. You can see a dollar sign in front of it. So if you are practicing under free tier, don't create a NAT gateway, otherwise you're going to get the charges. And if you are going to create a NAT gateway for a practice purpose, don't forget to delete it. Okay. Then we have VPC endpoint. So VPC endpoint basically help the resources inside VPC to access the resources outside the VPC over the private dedicated network, not over the public internet. Okay. So if you want to create a VPC endpoint, you can do that. And these are the DNS options. You can read about it. So DNS hostname attribute determines whether instances launched in a VPC receive public DNS hostname that correspond to the public IP address. Well, DNS, domain name system, that basically gives you a unique domain name, or you can say a domain name which will be resolved to an IP address. So it's easy to remember than remembering the numerical number. And you can see additional tags here. So if you want to add the tags to your VPC, you can add a new tag. So finally, you can create a VPC from here. So it's up to you. Do you want to create a VPC with a wizard and other components, or do you want to create an individual VPC and create its components separately? Okay. So that is what you can do by yourself. Great. Let me cancel this. I already have a custom VPC. You can create more VPCs. Okay. Now, one more very good thing I will tell you. See, there is an option called service quotas. Service quotas basically talk about the quota related to a particular service in AWS. So there is a default quota associated with a service and its features. Okay. This quota will help understand how many resources you can create. Now, the upper limit is adjustable. component and is not adjustable for some component. Okay, so we usually classify them in terms of hard limit and soft limit. If it's a hard limit, that's not adjustable. If it is a soft limit, that is adjustable. How to check that? Let me show you. Go to AWS services. Let's see the quota for VPC. And you can see the quota. So in the adjustable, if it is yes, it means you can increase the quota by requesting the quota increase. If it is not adjustable, you can't see any button to select it. Okay. So you should always see the quota for a particular service when you are creating a resource in a service. You can see how many subnets per VPC you can create. 200. That is adjustable. Okay. How many subnets that can be shared within an account? 100. Route table per VPC 200. Routes per route table 50. Rules per network ACL 20. Security group per network interface 5. All these things you can see if you want. Okay, so that is related to a service quota. Now I have an assignment for all of you, and that is this thing. So I have taken a workshop. This is a complete networking immersion day workshop. If you want to practice more on networking, if you want to do specialization in networking, you can do that. But for now, from the part of the practitioner perspective, you can do this lab number 1, VPC components. You can see this. Okay, they have also taken the questions for your understanding. You can see all these things. So that is one lab which I'm assigning to all of you. So you can spend some time to practice this. And again, I'm pasting a link in the chat. I'm giving you one more lab. Let me help you out. On networking. So you can use this for the practice purpose. You can see VPC hands-on lab, creating a VPC, creating additional subnet, added the routing table, create a security group, VPC flow logs. Okay, this is optional. So VPC flow logs are basically capture the information about a traffic which is flowing in and out of a VPC. Okay. Let me add this one also. And the last one which I will add for all of you, that is this one. Okay. Here you are going to create a VPC endpoint. So these are few labs which you can use for a practice purpose as a part of your VPC. Okay. So this is what I wanted to help you out in today's session. My major goal was to introduce you with the networking. Okay. So what's our plan for tomorrow? So tomorrow, along with some resources, some services which I am going to discuss as a part of tomorrow's session, I will help you out, as I mentioned you, with some short-term goal and a long-run goal. Okay. Short-term and long-run goal means, as I was talking about in the starting only. See, when we want to start our career in something, first of all, we should have a basic idea. We should have a basic understanding on different components. Okay. So that's what we are going to do as a part of these sessions. And then I'm going to help you out with more some references which you can use in order to start a particular track in the AWS. Okay. Any specific question anyone has as a part of today's session till here? Please write that. Please write that in the chat. So I'll wait for 5 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm opening the QA platform now, QA round. So if you have any question, please type that in the chat. Okay. Let me keep an eye in the comment section. So please make a note of all these links. You can use it for the practice purpose. And also tomorrow, I'm going to provide you some good references. Okay. And I have prepared a glossary for all of you, AWS glossary, specific to the cloud practitioner. Okay. So I will share that also with all of you. Thanks a lot, Sandeep. Do we need to have our own AWS account to practice this labs? Yes. See, if you have to explore AWS, I will always recommend you should have your AWS account. AWS already gives you the offerings, free tier offerings as a part of AWS account. Okay, you should check that. So if you want me to again provide you the block which I had provide last time also, this is the one. Creating AWS account. Okay. See, please refer my previous videos. Okay. You will see that I have already shown how to practice this labs. You will not reach them. You will not reach a quota. Okay. And you will not be charged any extra amount in understand what is a okay and how to create and activate an AWS account. Come again. Okay. That will help you out in a long run also. When you want to practice some services, you can always do that as a part of your account. Okay. That's great. Let me give you a quick overview what we are going to target in the next session. So in the next session, I'm going to touch base upon different certifications in AWS, okay, to just help you out how you can choose a particular track. I'm going to help you out with a reference, okay, like how you can start on a particular track in the AWS. What are the guides for that? And I will touch base upon databases in AWS, different databases solutions in AWS, and our area of focus will be RDS, relational database service. Okay. So these will be the things I'm going to discuss that with all of you in tomorrow's session. Any specific question anyone has? Okay, so I will wait. If you have any comments, I will take those comments. Okay, and I can also take the comments after the session too. So you can post your comment. Great. Okay. Rajat, so I'm done from my side. If there is no further comment, okay, are we
Great.
going to
Thanks a
cover?
lot,
Yeah,
Jatin.
yeah, Rajat.
Thanks a lot, Jatin, for the wonderful session. It was very useful. I have seen labs as well. It was particularly a very good hands-on lab around the VPC content, and I hope it was a great learning for the attendees as well. And thank you so much for your time. So again, we are winding up the session today. So there is a follow-up session tomorrow, the last session of this series. So please join that as well to increase your learnings and keep learning with us. And thank you so much for joining. And Jatin, thank you so much for giving the session and taking out your time for the session.
Thanks, Ajat. And yes, I will do a reply for all the comments. So I can see one last comment, which is inbound and outbound resolver. I can provide the reference for that. If there is any specific scenario you're looking for, please post that in the comment. Okay. I'll do that. So thank you very much one more time for being a great audience, for being a part of this session. Okay. And for any query, for anything, please post that in the comment section and I will get back to you. Okay. Thank you very much one more time from my side and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye, everyone.